Okay, so you want to talk about the whole Harry and Meghan mess, huh? Where do you even start with that royal drama? It's like a never ending soap opera, but with actual real world consequences. And honestly, the way the palace handled the whole Archie and Lilibet situation, messed up doesn't even begin to cover it. Think about it. The British monarchy, for all its fancy hats and corgis, is essentially a giant, meticulously kept record book. They document everything. Every birth, every death, every freaking tea party, it's all there, curated and archived for posterity. They're obsessed with legacy, right? But then Harry and Meghan come along, and suddenly things get weird. Every royal baby gets this whole introduction to the world. The birth announcement on the golden easel, the christening photos, their name in the court circular, the official registry. It's tradition, sure, but it's also about bloodline, about keeping track of who's who and where they fit in the line of succession. But Archie and Lilibet, they were practically invisible when it came to the official record. And that's what really got people talking. I mean, nobody expected these kids to be waving from balconies every other week. Harry and Meghan made it clear they wanted a more private life for their children. But the monarchy, they never forget to file their own, and that's the key. It wasn't about public appearances, it was about the records. Royal births aren't just casual events, they're historical entries. And yet, when the royal archivists went digging, there was practically nothing there. No christening portraits, no official family photos, nothing that matched the standards for decades. It was totally unheard of. Remember all the suspicions and weirdness around Archie's birth, too? People were already side-eyeing everything. At first, everyone just chalked it up to Harry and Meghan wanting privacy. But even the most private royal kids, Princess Anne's kids, the Wessex kids, they all had their places recorded, quietly but visibly. Archie and Lilibet, just absent. And that's when the questions started getting sharper. Why were they missing from the annual royal portrait? Even in the group shots where, the distant cousins twice removed got a nod. Why did palace staff suddenly get all tight-lipped when anyone asked about the kids? And why did those perfectly orchestrated family moments suddenly include everyone except Harry's side? It was like they were deliberately being erased, and of course that fueled all the surrogacy theories. The palace refused to say anything, which, let's be honest, made it all even more suspicious. Silence is never a good look when you're dealing with something that's normally routine. I mean, look at the rules. To be a prince or princess, you gotta meet 3 requirements. First, you gotta be born into the legitimate bloodline. Second, your birth has to be formally recorded and recognized by the palace. And third, you gotta be baptized in the Church of England. Miss one of those and boom, you're not royal, period. For decades, those rules were sacred. Entire lives depended on them. George, Charlotte, Louis, their identities were cemented in ink. Official seals, everything. Everyone knew the rules. But then came Harry and Meghan, and suddenly, tradition went out the window. The Sussex kids were born outside the UK in a culture that values celebrity over ceremony. The documents were filed all over the place. The baptisms were private, no Church of England oversight. Palace recognition? At best, murky. And that's where things got really messy. For the first time in modern history, a branch of the royal family seemed to be deliberately sidestepping the rules. And the institution? It did what it always does when tradition is threatened. It shut up and let the silence speak for itself. And that's when those dusty old letters patent, those boring rules, suddenly became front-page news. The palace wasn't just holding back comments. It was sending a signal in the only language the royal world really understands. Archie and Lilibet's place in the hierarchy? Not guaranteed. When a centuries-old rulebook starts being applied selectively, the whispers turn into rumors, and the gossip spreads like wildfire. The palace's silence wasn't just silence. It was a freaking warning shot across the Atlantic. Everyone in the know heard it loud and clear. Look, Meghan and Harry put their kids in the public eye. They gave them public titles even if they weren't using them. So yeah, they had a responsibility to shut down these crazy rumors. But let's go back to Archie's birth in May 2019. On the surface, it looked like a fairy tale. Proud parents, happy grandparents, press releases, the whole shebang. But underneath, the cracks were already forming. The moment that sent ripples through royal circles, it wasn't some grand ceremony or an interview, it was the paperwork. The birth certificate. It should have been a simple formality, but it became a battleground. People noticed changes. Meghan's name, which should have been there plain as day as the mother, was replaced with her title, Her Royal Highness the Duchess of Sussex, a title instead of a mom. An institutional stamp over a human connection. Catherine's kids had a clear pattern, but not Archie. To palace insiders, this wasn't just some administrative thing, it was a red flag. You don't just alter a royal birth certificate. It signals disagreement, intervention, maybe even questioning legitimacy. Historians knew something was up. The document wasn't just recording a birth anymore. It was making a political statement. And the media? They saw the inconsistencies. The birth announcements were all polished, but the public appearances and palace photos, they showed a kid already caught between two worlds, celebrated in the press, but missing from the official structures. The gossip was wild. Why would the palace allow a birth certificate to be rewritten? Why replace a mother's name with a title? Was it a rejection of Meghan? A statement about her place? Or something even bigger about Archie's status? I mean, think about it. Usually, they announce when labor starts, then when the baby's born, then you get the photo op outside the hospital. It's tradition. To the average person, it might have seemed like a small thing. But to anyone who knew royal protocol, it was the first crack in the facade. Meghan and Harry's post-royal narrative was colliding with centuries of tradition. The palace didn't need to say anything. The alteration itself was loud enough. Archie's birth, which should have been a happy announcement, stirred up whispers that only got louder when Lilibet came along. The message was clear. Being royal isn't just about love or bloodline. It's about following the rules. And Archie? He was already on shaky ground. Then came Lilibet in 2021. And nothing went the way it was supposed to. No royal doctor, no palace staff documenting anything, no easel announcement, no balcony wave, not even a peep from the court circular. Instead, we found out about the birth from a press release from California. Like it was some Hollywood celebrity, not the royal family. They didn't announce when Meghan went into labor. They kept Archie's birth private for hours. To Buckingham Palace, it was like the birth never happened. No records, no announcements, no acknowledgements, no place in the lineage. If your birth isn't recorded, it doesn't exist. Cold, but that's royal protocol. Royal insiders were freaking out. Some called it unprecedented. Others said it was a deliberate break from tradition, a royal divorce without the paperwork. The palace observers, they saw it as a rebuke. Titles and bloodlines are earned by following the rules, not by getting famous or having a good media strategy, especially since she wasn't using the royal doctors. If she really had preeclampsia, a deadly condition, there's no way she would have been released from the hospital. Even the name Lilibet Diana wasn't enough to get her into the royal record. She existed in the public eye, but she was invisible in the royal hierarchy. Every royal event after that reminded the world that the monarchy doesn't bend for Hollywood. The media and the public felt misled. And you know what? They were. The gossip columns went nuts. Social media exploded. Some said it was a tactical move. Others said the palace was protecting the rules of succession. Whatever the reason, Lilibet's birth became the perfect example of a kid in limbo, celebrated, loved, but unacknowledged by the institution that decides what it means to be royal. The palace's silence was deafening, and in that silence, a story of control and tradition was written, one that would define the Sussexes' relationship with the monarchy for years. Lilibet had arrived. But in the royal ledger, she didn't. The monarchy isn't just a family, it's like a religious institution with rules that are practically sacred laws. And the Church of England is right at the heart of it. Baptism? It's not just some cute photo op, it's the freaking key that unlocks your royal status. It's what makes you officially part of the lineage, with all the perks and responsibilities. And Archie and Lilibet, that foundational step was just overlooked. They were baptized in private American ceremonies, completely separate from the Church of England. No palace chaplain, no UK registry update, no records in the church archives. That's where the palace drew the line. The rules aren't suggestions, they're ironclad. No Church of England baptism, no royal status. Media coverage, Netflix deals, public adoration, none of it matters. Archie and Lilibet were celebrated by the world, but invisible in the one place that counts for royal legitimacy. The gossip went wild. Photos of family gatherings conveniently left them out. Lilibet's birthday photos were all over Instagram, but the palace records? Empty. It was deliberate. Tradition matters more than public opinion. For Harry and Meghan, this was personal. Their kids' identities, their royalness, depended on this one ritual. Without it, their whole image started to crack. The palace didn't need a press release. Their message was quiet, brutal, and effective. Bypass the church, bypass the monarchy. I wouldn't believe anything Meghan says at this point, to be honest. It all sounds completely implausible. She was a geriatric mother, let's remember that. From the moment she walked down the aisle, her identity was linked to her title, Duchess of Sussex. That title was her power, her brand. Every interview, every documentary, every appearance, it all leaned on that royal stamp of approval. She wasn't just an actress anymore. She was royalty, and the world was watching. But titles are fragile when they depend on bureaucracy. Meghan's identity depended on the palace acknowledging her kid's status. Archie and Lilibet weren't just her kids. They were proof that her image as a royal mother was legit. Without that acknowledgement, her whole brand started to fall apart. The palace stopping Archie and Lilibet from being included in official records was catastrophic for Meghan. Her carefully built brand started to crack. Every project, every appearance carried that whisper of contradiction. The royal children she was so proud of were missing from the institution she claimed to be part of. It was a PR nightmare disguised as paperwork. The birth announcement came in 2 parts. First, she's in labor. Then, 40 minutes later, the baby's already here. It's just weird. Insiders say Meghan felt blindsided. She couldn't rewrite centuries of rules. Books and podcasts couldn't force the palace to bend. The institution's refusal to acknowledge her kids undercut her whole image. The gossip circles were buzzing. This dissonance contributed to the tension between Meghan and the palace. To the world, she was empowered, but behind the walls, her authority was limited. Her title came with responsibilities she couldn't guarantee for her own kids. Her identity as a modern duchess collided with the immovable reality of tradition. What looked like freedom was a balancing act that the palace had dismantled. The cracks were public, and the world noticed. Behind the scenes, Harry was reportedly making desperate phone calls, not about titles or charity events, but as a father fighting for his kids. He wanted them to be recognized. Friends say he was calling key palace figures, not as a prince, but as a parent. He believed his kids deserved it. For Harry, this was personal. It was about identity. Every unanswered call reinforced that the palace wasn't going to bend the rules, even for him. He was haunted by the silence, caught between his family and the institution. The situation highlighted the clash between modern parenting and tradition. Harry and Meghan wanted flexibility, but the palace was firm. And it wasn't just bureaucratic. These omissions carried weight. The calls fueled speculation within the palace. Staff noticed Harry's concern, whispered about his frustration. In the end, those calls didn't change anything. But they revealed the human drama at the heart of royal protocol, a father fighting for his kids. And that fueled even more gossip. Meghan and Harry opted for a private birth and delayed the photo debut. Instead of a statement, the palace just quietly removed Archie and Lilibet from the royal registry. Archivists noticed first. The public thought it was an oversight. But in royal circles, an omission like that is never an accident. Titles were withheld, recognition was withheld, their place in the line of succession, gone. Even ceremonial invitations were bypassed. They were invisible. The method was brilliant in its cruelty. The children weren't removed because they'd never been officially entered in the first place. No paper trail, no public battle, no precedent. The palace insiders said it was brutally effective. By doing nothing, they avoided a fight while asserting authority. They sent a clear signal. Tradition trumps everything. In the eyes of Buckingham Palace, silence is louder than words. Of course, this had consequences. The media noticed. Analysts compared charts. Bloggers speculated. It was fuel for endless rumors. From the palace's point of view, it was controlled and authoritative. But from the public's point of view, it was dramatic and scandalous. Archie and Lilibet's absence was symbolic. Tradition can't be bypassed, procedure defines legitimacy, and even royal blood doesn't guarantee recognition. The whispers echoed through social media, analyst circles, and headlines, making the Sussex saga even more explosive. Over the years, the whispers got louder. Archie and Lilibet became anomalies. Royal watchers pored over every photo, every appearance, every press release. They noticed the gaps, the inconsistencies. Why weren't there official christening photos? Why were they absent from traditional events? Why weren't their names in the court circular? Each omission was a puzzle piece that didn't fit. Bloggers dissected interviews, pointing out inconsistencies. Analysts created timelines that didn't align with the palace's statements. The silence from Buckingham Palace was deafening. It was heavy and deliberate. To the public, this absence screamed louder than any statement. The rumor mill churned. Were Archie and Lilibet intentionally sidelined? Were they being erased? Was this some royal vendetta? Social media became a battleground. Fans created detailed threads comparing announcements and historical patterns. The palace, by refusing to respond, handed over control of the narrative to the public. What started as curiosity became obsession. Every gap fed the public's imagination. The story had taken on a life of its own. The absence of acknowledgement wasn't just a procedural issue, it was a scandal. And while the palace remained silent, Harry and Meghan's story was rewritten by the media and the masses. They were participating in this manipulation, withholding information, or just looking like idiots. That added another layer to the whole thing. Harry and Meghan curated their post-royal identity with precision, love, independence, and protection of their kids. Every interview painted a picture of an empowered couple. But reality had other plans. There were no royal doctors for either birth. The children were baptized outside the Church of England. Lilibet's birth was unrecorded. Archie's birth certificate was altered. The palace didn't recognize what the Sussexes declared. Procedure trumps emotion. Tradition is non-negotiable. The Sussexes thought the system could bend. The palace believed tradition is family. The collision landed squarely on the children. To the public, it was a clash of narratives. To insiders, it was a procedural stalemate with human consequences. Their image clashed with the reality of the institution. Their attempts to maintain privacy were perceived as antagonistic. The surrogacy rumors really started to gain momentum. The tension created a perfect storm. The public's curiosity met the palace's silence. Harry and Meghan's story was now defined by absence. Absence of recognition, absence of acknowledgement, absence of control. Meghan later claimed that the palace's message was clear. Tradition is immutable.